still nothing in those traps.
After our last video, I got a lot of questions and comments and responses. But the two most predominant questions that I received were, number one, how are your ducks doing? And number two,
what the heck did you do with that skunk that you trapped in the last video?
You wanna bang her right? Come on. Before I answer either of those questions, I do want to recognize the hero of the last video, the cat that knew what was going on well before his owner did, Mr. Pablo Barncat. Pablo, you gotta get out of front of the camera, bro. I can't shoot this video if you keep hanging in front of the camera, my friend. The ducks are doing okay. I didn't have to put any down yet. Most of them seem to be healing up. As you can see here, actually, a lot of them are starting to get back to their regular old duckiness. I've been keeping the ducks in that old chicken tractor just as a way to keep a closer eye on them and keep them in something that I know is a little bit more predator proof. Right now, I'm actually working on refortifying the duck house and making it like Fort Knox. I'm putting up hardware cloth in a lot of places. I am adding an additional layer of wire. I'm adding additional boards. I'm adding additional burrowing protections. Doing everything I possibly can to make sure I can keep that weasel out. I've been really trying to trap the weasel, but I haven't had too much luck there. I'm pretty sure it's a mink, which is a member of the weasel family. I have been watching very closely, monitoring with game cameras. I've been trying to trap with have-a-heart traps, and the other day with one of our have-a-heart traps, I caught a skunk. Now for some of you, I know you're saying, well, how do you know the skunk wasn't the animal that's attacking your ducks? And based on the way the animal entered into the duck house, based on the wounds that my ducks suffered, I am thinking that it's very, very unlikely that it's a skunk, and it's a very, very high probability that it's a mink. In my eyes, that means that the skunk was a completely innocent casualty of this war with the weasel. This skunk was just wandering around, happened to smell something that smelled like cat food, and he wandered into a have-a-heart trap, and I caught him. He spent the entire night in that trap as the mink ran around the duck house, tried to get into the duck house, and ultimately broke into the duck house. The guy was totally innocent of the thing. I've got it on tape. He's absolutely exonerated. So, but regardless of innocence or not, I now had this problem on my hands that I had a skunk in a trap. And as everybody knows, skunks have a tendency to spray you with their smelly, smelly spray when they feel threatened or endangered. Now, in talking with some of my neighbors, they all suggested that I either shoot it or drown it. But for me, the big softy that I am, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I mean, there's just been so much death and pain on the farm over these last couple of days. Killing an innocent skunk felt like I was only contributing to that feeling. I mean, the fact that predators will attack an animal like the duck, that is what it is. That's part of the deal with all of this. You know, that's part of the cycle of life. But I don't always have to continue to contribute to it. Now here in northeastern Vermont, we have a special animal catch and release program. We call it New Hampshire. I'm just kidding. I don't actually take animals and relocate them into another state. I know that's illegal. That was just a joke. Please don't take it seriously. Now, the first thing I did before trying to do anything with the skunk that I had in the trap was I decided to take 15 minutes and just do some quick online research. So if you stumbled across this video because you're trying to deal with a skunk that's trapped in a live trap, kudos to you. You've really already accomplished step one in this process. All of the advice that I saw was very conclusive in saying that the thing I needed to do was cover the trap with some sort of blanket or towel. The reason being this: skunks don't have very good eyesight, yet they also do not spray what they cannot see. By covering up the trap, they can't see where the threat is, and so they don't know where to spray. And on top of it all, the covering of the trap creates this confined space that makes the skunk feel like it's not safe to spray because they don't want to spray themselves. The logic of all of this seemed pretty darn good to me, so I figured what the heck could go wrong?
Well, sniff on this.
Ah! My first attempt actually wasn't great, and it sort of only halfway got on the cage because I was so nervous and scared. So I had to use like a stick to try to move it into the proper place. Once I got the proper cover on the skunk, I picked it up and very carefully and very slowly carry him to my pickup truck. Tossed him in the back of the pickup truck. I would strongly recommend you guys, if you are trying to transport a skunk in like a car, not to do that. Because the entire time I was doing this, it very much felt like a high-risk proposition. And the last thing in the world I think you'd want to have happen is for the skunk to spray in your car. I felt okay with it in the back of the bed of the pickup truck, and so I drove off to, I'll just say, the backside of our property, an undisclosed location. But still our property, so, you know, everything was on the legal up and up. One big mistake I made when I was transporting the skunk was, as I put the towel on top of him and put him in the back of the pickup truck, I didn't compensate for the fact that the cage would move around a little bit while I was driving and that the towel could potentially fall off. So yes, the cage moved around a little bit while I was driving and the towel fell off. So there I was actually in the backside of the property over by the woods, and I was trying to get rid of this skunk, and I opened up the back of my tailgate, and I'm face to face with the skunk, completely uncovered. He's terrified from the drive. But what I ended up doing was sneaking around the back, grabbing the towel, dropping it over the cage again, and I was able to pull him out of the truck without any incident and set him on the ground. Then my next step was to actually open the door of the trap with the cover still on. The reasoning being, again, skunks have terrible eyesight, and I figured if it was still dark or bright red for the case of the towel I was using, inside the cage he'd be less likely to spray. So I opened up the door of the cage, and then I slightly peeled back the towel to give the skunk a little bit of light so he could see where to go and try to get out. Try to get him out. Come on, guy, get out. Now, if you're ever having a down day or a tough time, I have some advice for you. Because the day that I released that skunk out in the back was quite possibly one of my 3 worst days working here on our farm. You know, I had just discovered for a second time that the ducks had been attacked. I was feeling like a failure because I couldn't keep my animals safe. I was just feeling awful about things in general. I was worried, I was scared, and I felt like having to deal with this skunk was just one more thing that I had to contend with. It was the last thing that I wanted to do on my list. But let me just tell you that there is no greater feeling on the planet Earth than safely and successfully releasing a skunk back into the wild. Like, if this was a video game, I feel like I just unlocked a new challenge. It was incredible. Like, the sense of accomplishment I had of both, you know, being able to be humane and spare the life of this skunk, but then also do it in a way that didn't really damage or cost me anything other than about a half an hour's worth of time. I mean, like seriously, you guys should all give this a shot sometime. There is no feeling greater. So if you're watching this video and you stumbled on it because you were trying to figure out how to contend with your skunk problem, kudos to you. You can do this. You are able to deal with this skunk. Just be slow, just be cautious, and just follow the steps in the process and you'll just be fine. But man, that feeling that you have once you're done with it is the greatest feeling on earth.